Hi, it's a beautiful rainy day here in Kansas City, and I just want to give you some facts. Please listen to these and pass them on to the best of your ability. Share this video, whatever it takes. I'm not going to stop talking about it, so please listen. If you're a numbers person, you're going to be able to absorb this a lot better, I think. On October 22nd, 1993, I found out that my father planned a mass murder of his dormitory. He killed one classmate and then spent about 5 years in a mental institution for the criminally insane. It took me a while to grasp that he was a school shooter, but I did so before Columbine because there were a number of incidences up to Columbine where I understood that, hey, this is a phenomenon. So I understood about school shootings in 1993. If there were an asterisk on this, I would say that the numbers here until 2000 represent at least one injured in a gun incident on campus. After 2000, the year 2000, numbers are a combination of gun-related incidents and the above criteria. So just bringing a gun on campus counts as the additional criteria from 2000 on. There have been 2,180 school shootings since my father committed his crime in 1955. There were 217 shootings from 1955 until Columbine. From 1993, when I found out, until Columbine, for 6 years, there were 63 school shootings. So when I found out until Columbine, 63. From Columbine to Virginia Tech, if you know those dates, it's 1999 to 2007. There were 309 school shootings. From Virginia Tech to Sandy Hook, from 2007 to 2012, there were 115. My point is that we have a phenomenon that spreads throughout a very small portion of a population of boys who are most probably bullied or who have experienced social isolation or abuse in their homes. It is very difficult to profile school shooters. There is not necessarily a universal thing. They're getting better at it. They're narrowing things down. But one factor is access to weapons, number one. Number two, they all share early childhood trauma, okay? So that's a societal issue. We can get to that. Also keep in mind, amongst these boys, there is a transmission of this myth of the school shooter now. There is the transmission amongst them to talk and see about this. How do I know this? How do I know this is happening? Well, for starters, I study storytelling, I study stories, and I study the repetition of stories and how they infiltrate and can embed themselves in the human mind. This is what my master's thesis was about. You keep repeating a story, it will eventually sink into a population's DNA. This has been proven. So, when I'm done giving my talk about school shooters, when I'm done at the end, there's lines of people who want to talk to me naturally because when do they ever get to talk about this, right? Because I always thought it was a good time to talk about it, so I thought I've been talking about it forever. There's a line of men who stand and they're usually crying and they come and talk to me about their experience of bullying in school. Some of them talk about how they fantasize the same way that my dad did about killing everyone. Some of them talk about that they actually did bring weapons to school, and these are men in their 70s. They actually did bring weapons to school in their dorms. They hid it under their bed just in case something would happen. They could defend themselves. And then there's a very small percentage. I can count on two hands, however, that have said to me, your dad is my hero, and I wish I'd killed everyone too. So that's real. I have heard that from people in our population, and that needs to be known. I have to transmit that story to you because I've been keeping that because it's terribly frightening, and to know that that's being carried. for a very long time. So the depth of the problem needs to be really understood, okay? Next on my notes. Guns, stopping other people with guns. Really bad idea. It has never worked, ever. It's never worked. Ever. And I just want to say that the more armed we are, the more frightened we are, the more traumatized we are. And this is Traumerica. You know, growing up from 1993, when I was 19 until now, seeing all of the shootings is very traumatizing. It's also traumatizing to know that that's how our country began. So that's how deep the wound goes. We have to look at the enslavement of Africans. We have to look at the genocidal killing of Native Americans, because that is all a part of this epigenetic inheritance we have here. Please trust me on this. Please listen to me on this. Please educate yourself about school shooting history. Please know that as I rattled off those things, I didn't have to write the dates down, actually, just the names. Know how you felt about Virginia Tech. You remember Virginia Tech? Know how you felt about Columbine. Do you remember Columbine? Know about all of the other incidences before Columbine. Do you remember Texas? Do you remember anything about a school shooting prior to last week? And if you did, and if you do, then you knew. Please go to the Wikipedia school shootings page, because that will then direct you to the 3 centuries that we're dealing with here. The page is long, and that particular list is a list of at least 1 injured. So please get to know that. I need you to stop saying things like, well, you'd think after Sandy Hook. There was a number of incidences before Sandy Hook. Do not invalidate the deaths of those people in mass shootings and school shootings. And don't be so arrogant as to think that we even cared. Because then people say, well, you'd think after Columbine, but then what about everybody else that died before Columbine? Because there's a lot. It's been a problem since the beginning. So please acknowledge that, and please get to that. You would think after one death of one child, we would say no more. And that is just it. And the fact that it has taken this much, the fact that you can sit and listen to me say I'm the daughter of a school shooter and that means something, then that is on us. That existence can mean something, that it can be lived and embodied as it is with me. That says something about a country. And as I've said before, I'm proud to be an American, but it hurts. The other thing I would say and request is that we be vigilant. We have to be vigilant about absolutely everything. We have to be vigilant about raising our children from infancy on. We have to be vigilant about early childhood education. We have to be vigilant that there is an adult at some point in this child's life that is checking in, okay? We cannot leave girls behind in this dynamic. We cannot leave bullies behind in this dynamic, and we can't leave average people out of this dynamic, because we're all part of the dynamic that allows this to happen. We live in a society that creates school shooters. I know this. We live in a society that allows it to continue, thinking it's rare. And we live in a society that only seems to know how to grieve for victims and then repeat and do nothing about preventing. And I'm here about the prevention. So please understand, and this is a really important point here, I am really loath to compare the Holocaust with anything. I think it's a bad metaphor considering the scope and the scale and the historic nature of it. However, when they went back to interview all the people in the villages about when the trains were coming through, and they could see the arms of people hanging out of the trains, they could hear them and they went by. And then, 10, 20 years later, somebody comes in to interview them and they said, oh, well, we didn't know. We didn't know. If you remember Virginia Tech, you knew. If you remember Columbine, you knew. If you remember the Texas Tower, you knew. If you've heard me speak, you knew. If you've known me, you knew. We've all known, and we've let it continue. And so now we have to do something different than we've ever done, which is once you know, you do. And so I'm begging you to donate to Everytown, to donate to Sandy Hook Promise, to become a volunteer in Moms Demand Action, to talk to your boys, to be vigilant about social structures and how they damage us, and to know that we will rescue America from the grips of gun ideology, because there is no future if we don't. Thank you for listening. I kept it under 15 minutes. This isn't a TikTok. This is real life. And may you never ever experience the horror. And may you understand that you really are actually already experiencing the horror, if you were at all tuned in. Please pass on this message or this video. If I make you uncomfortable, then just share the words or the numbers at least. And thank you for your time.